This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Welcome to Late Boomers, our podcast guide to creating your third act with style, power, and impact. Hi, I'm Kathy Worthington.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Join us as we bring you conversations with successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and people with vision who are making a difference in the world.
Everyone has a story, and we'll take you along for the ride on each interview, recounting the journey our guests have taken to get where they are, inspiring you to create your own path to success. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Kathy Worthington. Welcome to Late Boomers. Today, our special guest is Asher Laub, who is an improvisational, cutting-edge electric violinist with a fan base that numbers more than 100,000 across social media. He dances while he performs, and he's also a composer and producer and live performer.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Asher has garnered acclaim across 4 continents and has performed at Madison Square Garden, Carnegie Hall, and Lincoln Center, just to name a few. His concerts have been featured live on PBS, and he's made headlines in places such as CNN, NBC, and WABC. But this isn't his whole story, and we're looking forward to hearing more about his journey. Welcome, Asher.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us, Asher, what is a live performer? And tell us about your background and how it led to the career and the life path you're on today.
So live performance is essentially my income. It's like 90% of what I do professionally as a musician. I'll get phone calls to do private events, concerts, corporate events, fundraisers, all sorts of different things that specifically feature the violin. That's kind of like the mainstay. Or sometimes subcontracting out other musicians' strings and playing along with the band, sometimes in the DJ context, a lot of different types of events. Probably I'm doing about 200 of these per year. I try to stay kind of, I try to stay, I love it. I've been doing this for professionally about 18, 19 years and full-time about 7 years.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So live performance is, I'm sure most people understand, is, getting up there in person in front of the audience on stage, whatever. And then there's the other live performance, which is on Facebook, Instagram. You go live. That's remote. So that I enjoy too. But that isn't as much my income as being there in person.
Well, what was your background like? How did you start with violin and stuff?
Yeah.
So I started at the age of 2 on a margarine box with rubber bands serving as strings. And my mother, she put me in professional mode pretty young, and says that I kind of looked up to my older brother and I wanted to do this. I wanted to play the violin because he was playing concertos. He was 6 years older than me, and I was just in love with what he was playing. I don't remember that conversation at the age of 2, but by the age of 3, there are like photos of me with these tiny wooden violin, and I played Suzuki method and so on and so forth. That was something that I continued on a weekly basis with professional lessons until I was in high school, and I was in Greater Buffalo Youth Orchestra, Greater Buffalo Youth String Orchestra, NISMA competitions. I was just playing pretty much since I was in diapers on stage. So transitioning to a professional career was pretty much a very natural process. And that actually didn't happen until I made it to New York and I started to attend university, and that's where a lot of the work came in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
You were in the right place.
That was a mouthful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, pretty amazing that you started with rubber bands as strings.
Yeah. It wasn't my idea.
It's pretty creative. So what are some of the greatest business and health challenges you've encountered in your music career?
Too many to name. but I could start with a few. The business challenges, I'm going to start with that, didn't start until I decided to go off on my own and become an independent musician, artist, really looking to connect with fans in a more deeply meaningful way. And that happened around 7 years ago when I began full time live performances. Prior to that, like about 2002 to 2010 ish, I was just booked by agents, booking agents who were kind of incorporating me into their projects and studio sessions and club dates, so on and so forth. So I was just, they gave me a ring, show up to this place, here's the pay, and that was pretty much how it worked. And it got old after maybe 10 years. And speaking more specifically to your question about the challenges, 7 years ago, 7 years prior to this, when I moved into the full-time professional independent artist mode, all hell broke loose, and it was really stressful because I was married and I had to pay the bills. So I had to figure out how to data crunch and to work on my Excel charts and I had to figure out where my expenditures were and where I should invest my money and it's a business essentially. So I had to figure out where to put my money and what my ROI was as a result of investing money into like certain projects and musical compositions. So that was like the first real leap in terms of entering the business world and realizing how challenging it is to be an independent artist and to pretty much represent yourself. And I mean, I can go on and on.
Yeah.
About it.
But we understand you've had some health issues during the journey as well.
So that was probably much more of a significant challenge than the business challenges. I was diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency. And prior to that, in a chronic inflammatory disorder, which about 2-3 years prior to that, adrenal insufficiency landed me in a wheelchair for about 6-7 months or so. I don't remember the exact timeline. It's probably, I'm always referencing it, but approximately that, and lost my career pretty much, and a whole lot of money, and almost lost my family. And it was a pretty horrendous period in my life. My son was, I think, 3 at that time. So it feels like a pretty much a lifetime ago, 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And when I regained my strength, which is a whole other topic and conversation as to how that happened, I was on a permanent dosage of Cortef, and I got off of that and hit the ground running as soon as I regained the strength. And I decided that music was where my passion really lied, and I put my 2 other very expensive careers from NYU to the side, and I pursued music full time.
Well, bless you, because it's really tough. And talk about that. How did you reinvent yourself? And what advice would you like to give to others who need to reinvent themselves?
Well, part of the just reinventing myself aspect was really just going from working for other people to sort of plotting my own path forward and representing myself and creating music really for myself and for the fans. Neon Dreams was really the song that launched my independent career, and that actually did the best. That's sort of the beginning of what changed. And then I got a little crazy and shifted into this choreography mode with every single release. So through videos and live performances, and
your breakdancing and your dancing. Talk about that too.
Yeah. So that wasn't actually new, but the incorporation of violin and the dancing was new. I mean, like the marrying of the two. I'd always been a break dancer and a gymnast since I was in middle school. And actually, my grandparents were really very much opposed to it because they were concerned that I was going to end up hurting myself. Ironically, it actually helped me with a lot of my back pain. But I just felt the need to really express myself in more ways than just through the violin. I just felt like I felt so, I guess, just elated, just relieved to have regained the strength again to play the instrument and to pursue music again as a career. So I guess this was just sort of my expression, my physical expression of this excitement and this sense of renewal. So that's where the choreography came in, and I think that's where it was born. And
we can also tell people to check out your Instagram, because there are all kinds of things on there with you performing in different settings and stuff. It's really fun, your Instagram.
Yeah, really fun.
I try to have a lot of fun. You know, I try to bring as much music to the listeners as possible, because that's really what they want to hear and see.
Yeah.
On
social.
Any advice to others who want to reinvent themselves?
Well, it is important to follow your passion. Otherwise, you end up taking this circuitous route like I did for a pretty long time. And it's an expensive venture. If you really don't know what truly makes you happy, then it takes a lot longer to kind of find your path and find your way. So to an extent, within moderation, I think it's important in retrospect to, again, find what you're passionate about, and find something that you're really good at, that you maybe have a niche and that you maybe you can express yourself and in a way that's meaningful to others, or maybe you have a skill that you're really good at that maybe isn't so mainstream, but you think you can monetize to an extent. I would take that approach in retrospect. So maybe that's helpful to your listeners. As opposed to just sort of doing what's quote unquote stable, what everybody else is doing. And that's what I did for a while. And the day job just wasn't worth the effort in the end, because what I'm doing now is essentially earning me as much as I would in a stable job. And I'm a lot happier. And I jump out of bed just trying to get everything done, because I'm just so excited to get every project finished. And actually doing interviews like this is also something I really enjoy.
Oh, great.
That's great.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, you've said some of your greatest failures were ultimately your greatest blessings. What do you mean by this?
Exactly that. Although I wouldn't wish my greatest failures on anybody, and I really wouldn't want to go through it myself again, because it was living hell, all these challenges. But now that it's kind of in the past, I think I'm stronger because of it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to sort of renew myself and to re-engage with, in this case, the music industry with more wisdom.
Well, do you want to tell our audience anything about that? Or not?
As far as I guess the approach that I take to my music career after the fact, as opposed to prior to my state of adrenal insufficiency. Is that what you're referring to?
No, actually, go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, like give us an example of a failure that really showed up as a blessing in your life.
Yes.
Maybe you can think of anything.
Well, I guess you could say landing myself in a wheelchair is a failure, although it's kind of hard to blame myself.
Not really.
In that situation. That's why I guess that I was just thinking of that. I mean, I've failed over and over again. I mean, even in terms of just business decisions. But to my credit, I got up and I learned from those mistakes. And to be specific, a few years ago, I think it was prior to COVID and then during COVID, I just spent my money on the wrong things. And I don't know how much of this you want it to be like a business lesson for aspiring musicians, but I could, we could go down that rabbit hole. I kept going. I kept spending and spending. And one specific year where that comes to mind, I kept spending money to, I guess, increase my clientele, and it was producing negative return, and it just continued to produce negative return. But I did see results, so I kept spending in the hopes that I would sort of get over this heat, this what's the word? I would get around the obstacle by overspending myself through the problem. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm being clear.
Yeah.
So like one example was I was running ads on certain campaigns, and it was failing, or at least it wasn't thriving, and it was producing a negative return. But because it was producing a return, I kept spending, and I was losing my mind. It was really stressful, and I spent myself into oblivion, and created a lot of issues. And I had to dig myself out of that hole.
That's a good business lesson, though, for all of us.
Yeah. But what would you say are you most proud of in your musical accomplishments?
Well, in terms of just speaking to that issue, I'm proud of the fact that I picked myself up instead of shifting back to like those stable careers, which I think most people would have done. I picked myself up and I analyzed what I did wrong, and then I kind of flipped the script, and I was able to, with data crunching, reallocate funds to the correct campaigns, and I was able to sort of save my career.
But you played Carnegie Hall, you played, talk about some of your musical stuff. Tell us what's the big highlight of your musical stuff.
Well, I mean, Madison Square Garden was pretty memorable event. I still have people occasionally see me at an event and say, "Oh, like you did that event many years ago, and you were like on stage along with Madison and other big names." That's a memory I'm never going to forget. But in Carnegie Hall, these like iconic halls, playing at Lincoln Center Master Theater was probably one of the coolest performances, because people were so into the release of Neon Dreams, and they were just like clapping and dancing, and you could see a snippet of that on my stories page on Instagram. So those are absolutely memorable. PBS, playing at PBS twice, that was definitely memorable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And some of the people you played with are very, very exciting. I know you mentioned a couple, but I was watching on your Instagram that moment when you played to Crazy, which was terrific with Gnarls. Was that with Gnarls Barkley? Yeah.
I'm trying to remember which one of those posts. I post literally every day. But
you've done a lot.
Yeah, I've done a lot, and it's been a real it's been a nice ride thus far. I have to say my favorite performances weren't necessarily with or for celebrities. My favorite performances were performing my music for fans that really love the music. That's far and away more of a big deal to me personally than if I were to play at the White House. I would choose the former over the latter personally. This as an artist.
Interesting. Well, we've seen, like we said, some of your work on Instagram, and they really are terrific. But who do you look up to professionally, and what types of composers inspire your own compositions on the note of your own music?
Well, Kevin Alusula from the Pentatonics was actually the first time I referred to him. Kevin, if you're out there, shout out to you. He's an inspiration because he's a cellist, and he's blended. He's a very, very talented classical cellist who moved into crossover cello playing. So I'm a crossover violinist, he's a crossover cellist. So I really admire how he's innovated that instrument, and he's made it pretty mainstream. Two cellos, Lindsey Sterling, David Garrett. I mean, there's just a couple names to name a few. I'm just in love with what they all do, and I love how they've mainstreamed the instruments, and how they haven't limited themselves career-wise to just playing with orchestras. They've kind of made themselves attractive to people that would be more typically interested into alternative or EDM or rock. They're listening to classical instruments playing just because of the way that they've adapted their style. So that's what I do.
And I was going to ask you about influencing conventional thinking about musical performance. So what you just said touches on that, huh?
Yeah, and I try to present my own music in a different way, although I have these obvious influences, but my music is uniquely my own. And I think the best way to describe it is EDM classical, because it's instrumental, it has some electronic elements, but then it has full symphonic elements also. Redemption has like a 40-piece orchestra behind it, and Miserlou, which I'm really excited and proud about. I don't know if you want me to talk about that. Is also has electronic elements, and also full symphony as well.
Oh wow,
That's
I think
very impressive.
we're all going to get into this. Yeah,
we are.
This is great.
Yeah. Well, on that note, would you tell us about how, say, Redemption came into being and some of your other singles? And after we talk about it, would you play something for us?
Sure. So Redemption, I'm still wrapping my head around how the whole piece came in, because it's brand new. It's a week old in terms of I started producing it a week and a half ago. I just pumped it out real quickly.
Wow.
I do this on a monthly basis. I'm producing a lot. It's kind of necessary in the position that I'm in.
And a 42-piece orchestra behind it in a week.
Well, it's not as these are tracks. So I did not hire a full symphony. That would probably cost me many thousands of dollars. I can do that on occasion. I can't do that on a monthly basis at the moment, but I have software where I have my keyboard and MIDIs and different types of tracks. So I have I have this lovely instrument that I record, and I'll layer. That's so cute.
It's
sorry about that.
I'm jealous.
Sorry about that. He's very unpredictable.
No, not at all.
Kathy's cat and Asher's violin. For those of you in our audience who are only listening, but that's
that's what's cute is the cat and the violin is very cute.
The violin's a different looking violin.
It's gorgeous. That's
gorgeous.
beautiful.
That is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. The acoustics over there, but this is also on a podcast, so I guess people can't see it. You check out the YouTube video. No. But I will layer in this studio behind you, like 30 different strings. So, and then I'll do cello and viola. So those, in terms of that, those are real instruments. The wind instruments are pre-recorded real instruments that I'm able to, with my software, I'm able to lay down all the notes, and that's how I create the symphony. So that's what I'm doing. I lost track of your original question.
Well, we're going to drop in the music at this point. Coming out of that, what are your career plans now, and what do you see for your future?
Sure. So I plan on sticking with what I've been doing, up until now. Full-time music career, live performances, but I plan on scaling back the live performances a bit and replacing them more with sync licensing, film type music, since that's what I do on a regular basis anyway, through collaborations and just just monthly releases. I'm looking to have them submitted to films, and I'm hoping I can sort of augment that part of my income, and because I just love being in the studio. And I when my kids are a little bit older, plan on doing a little more touring, and those are my goals in the next.
Good.
Performing live on tour.
Yeah, live on tour. That's right.
That's exciting.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
Well, we spoke a little bit about this earlier, but what would you say to other aspiring entrepreneurs like yourself and musicians?
Well, I have a lot to say, but to sort of keep it simple, just from what I've spoken about in the last 20, 30 minutes or so, I think, life's really short, and I learned that the hard way. And it's ultimately the most important thing is to, make it a good ride, an enjoyable ride, something that you're proud of. So I would recommend to people that if aspiring musicians or people who are just getting out of college to really find what they're very good at and what they're passionate about, not just think about the money or even what everybody else is doing. Look at what you're truly excited about, something that's going to get you up in the morning. And because whatever you decide to do, you're gonna have to work hard at. That's pretty much the name of the game in this country. And that's what I want to leave people with. Just find your passion and stick to it, and don't give up, especially if you think that to a certain extent it's monetizable.
Wow,
fabulous. Thank you. That's a great takeaway for them.
It's a great takeaway. Thank you so much, Asher. Our guest today on Late Boomers has been Asher Laub, improvisational cutting-edge electric violinist who's known for breakdancing across the stage as he performs. He's also a composer, producer, and live performer. You can reach him on his website at asherlaub.com. That's ASHERLAUB.com. And also via social media. Asher, can you tell people how to reach you on social media?
Sure. Well, asherlaub.com is the easiest way to find the social media links, but Instagram, so Asherlaub is my handle, ASHERLAUB, and Asherlaub Music on Facebook. So Asherlaub on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, but Asherlaub Music on Facebook.
Great.
And
great.
Everywhere else. I mean, Spotify. If you want to hear my original music, it's on all major platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, so on and so forth. And my music videos.
When you finish listening to Late Boomers on Spotify, you can switch over to Asher Laub and listen to the music we're talking about.
Right. And then go back to Late Boomers.
Yeah, and go back to another episode. And back and forth all day. Yeah. Thanks to our listeners for subscribing to our Late Boomers podcast YouTube channel and for giving us those 5-star reviews on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you on our Instagram or on our website, lateboomers.biz. We hope you always get inspired when you listen. And thanks again, Asher.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Late Boomers, the podcast that is your guide to creating a third act with style, power, and impact. Please visit our website and get in touch with us at lateboomers.biz. If you would like to listen to or download other episodes of Late Boomers, go to ewnpodcastnetwork.com.
This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other major podcast sites. We hope you make use of the wisdom you've gained here and that you enjoy a successful third act with your own style, power, and impact.